Good morning, and thanks for being with us this morning. It is the Elias Mackos Show. I'm Sue Smith, sitting in this week and next. It's a pleasure to be with you. So it's Montreal's Formula One Grand Prix. It's back this weekend, starting really festivities start today. Last year, as we know, there were a number of problems. There was flooding, some logistical chaos, and a lot of angry local businesses, let's just say Terrace Gate. So now the city's under pressure to prove that it can deliver a world-class race. Alia Hassan Cournol is a Montreal City Councillor for Mercier-Hochelaga-Maisonneuve and the Associate Councillor for Economic Development, and she joins me on the line. Good morning.
Good morning, Sue. Thank you for having me.
So thanks for coming on. So, what were some of the biggest challenges that Montreal faced during last year's Grand Prix?
Well, you introduced it well. We had kind of a perfect storm last year, and I mean, I mean it. We had the flooding at the paddocks on the Parc Jean Drapeau. We had the Terrace Gate and how it went with the firefighters, and the weather itself was absolutely horrible. So that made that was problematic in terms of communication and logistics. But we sat down with Formula One, the promoters, the merchants, everybody from the SPVM, the firefighters, and the mayor's office to have a postmortem a few days after. And throughout the year, this year, we made quite a lot of changes downtown Montreal, in the core downtown for the merchants, for example, and on site at the Parc Jean Drapeau to have a more user-friendly experience and made Montreal look brighter and smarter and way more attractive.
Okay, let's look at some of those changes. So, for example, what have you done for merchants?
Well, for example, for merchants, we've been working very closely with the firefighters because remember the Terrace Gate last year was due to the fact that inspector came at a very inappropriate moment. We were in the middle of the Grand Prix, the busiest time of the year, and that was really not the time. So now we've actually made the permits way more flexible. It was easier for the merchants to install their terrace and have big terraces. And then we've changed the communication with the firefighters. So now, in case anything, because, security is key and all that, but in case anything, they have a direct contact with somebody at the highest level of the firefighter's office. Mm-hmm. And of course, we've improved also the different financial programs for the merchants and the SDC downtown.
And what about for users? You mentioned people going to the site. How is that experience changing? Because, what can you do about, for example, the flooding? I take your point. Sometimes there's extraordinary weather. Yeah. We know Montreal does not do well overall in flooding.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. That we're in the midst of a climate change crisis, and we've experienced bad weather that we weren't used to. But the Parc Jean Drapeau has been working very closely with both the Formula One and the promoter to change the paddocks, to change the things on site. So, for example, if you're coming from downtown, you're going to be able to access the site, of course, from the metro. And even though where the STM is on strike this weekend, starting tomorrow, it's going to be 100% traffic in the metro. So anybody can access Parc Jean Drapeau and any activities in Montreal this weekend. There's going to be an opening from the south shore of the Parc Jean Drapeau to access the site, and there's going to be kind of a mobility hub inside the Parc Jean Drapeau, so you can access by bike, by taxi, by metro, even with your car. So that's going to be way more accessible than it used to.
But what about things like flooding and how have you, raised the track?
So this is really the responsibility of both Parc Jean Drapeau, the promoter, and the F1. They change how the paddocks are going to be constructed. So, for example, the construction site at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve has begun earlier, and it's going to be removed earlier also. So that way people can come and access the Parc Jean Drapeau. It's going to be higher elevated because of the floods in case anything happened. And the Parc Jean Drapeau has made sure to have very solid contracts with contractors to build up the site faster with more efficiency and taking into consideration how flooding can impact the construction itself.
Of course. Yeah, well, I mean, hindsight, as we know, is 2020, and it couldn't, as you say, the perfect storm. It couldn't have been worse on so many levels last year. But I'm wondering about the involvement of the F1 officials, because I know that, of course, it is divided, but overall, I think people are happy that the F1 is here. We know it brings in a lot of business and international acclaim to the city. But we're always kind of like nervous. Are we going to lose it? Are we too incompetent? Now we've got an STM strike. We've got, so what is their involvement? And did you have to jump through some hoops to convince them to stay?
No, there were no hoops to convince them to stay. And you know what? Last year was extraordinary.
Yes.
And that was the first time that it happened in 47 years of F1 being in Montreal. And that I need to remind everybody of that. And I want to reassure everybody, F1 is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. We've had great discussion with F1 and the promoter. They love Montreal. They want to stay in Montreal. Of course, we had to have discussion right after what happened last year. But F1 is here to stay. And you know what? This year, we've even ordered great weather for Montreal.
Yeah, well, it's nice when you can, because you get all the responsibility for the bad weather. So
sure.
Yeah, I would take that totally. But listen, I have to ask you about another thing that's been making headlines. And I have to say my eyes have been kind of rolling about this, what they're calling the beautification blitz. So removing cones and putting, I don't know what they're called. They're not really flags, but they're, screens, I guess, over construction sites. It all seems a bit manufactured, and people are criticizing it. What do you think about that?
Well, we have to try new things and we have to try new ways. So because of F1 weekend, first of all, we stopped any new permits being produced for any new construction sites. Secondly, we've removed hundreds of orange cones, and that means that we're able to have less orange cones in the city, especially downtown. And only 25% of the construction sites that you're seeing anywhere in Montreal are from the city of Montreal. The other percentage, the bigger percentage, is from either private constructors or any other public manufacturers, let's say. So we have to have very close conversation and agreement with them in order to make sure that they follow Montreal in the path of making the city look better and having better design around construction sites. Paris is doing this. Why not us? So we're changing that. As you said it, I'm in charge of economic development, and in my portfolio, I also have design. And the Office of Design is also helping merchants and construction workers and promoters to have a better design around their sites and to hide the construction site itself. Right. So really, we're in the right path. There's so many construction sites in Montreal because, we have to renew the city and we have to do it, but it has to be more pleasant, and we're definitely working on it.
I'm on board with you there, but it sure seems like everywhere is under construction right now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I get the Montrealers for that.
I'm sure you do. Ms. Hassan Cournol, thank you so much for joining us.
It was my pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
That is Alia Hassan Cournol. She's a Montreal City Councillor for Mercier-Hochelaga-Maisonneuve and Associate Councillor for Economic Development, making the case that Montreal's done a lot. Yes, last year was that perfect storm. Montreal's done a lot to try to make the infrastructure work better for F1 fans, businesses, for everybody. Let's hope so.